guys ready to rock? Mm-hmm. I'll give you a 5.
Okay. I was like, wait, what?
Get going live in 5, 4, 3.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Genres of People. This is a weekly online series where we chat with community members who have converged and contributed to the wonderful community of Guelph. My name is Nick Weaver of Gain Media, formerly Gain Music, and this week we've got with us Ali McDonald.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So you are of Infinity Marketing Design.
Correct.
And most recently you also got hired by Hope House, so congrats on that, part-time, I guess.
Yes.
So we'll get into both of those in a little bit, but first I always like to kind of get these going by just getting a bit of background information on, where you came from and whatever else. And so I know you're not originally from Guelph, but can you tell us where you are from and how long you lived there and when you ended up moving to Guelph?
So I was originally born in Sault Ste. Marie, which, if you're not familiar, is about 8 hours north of here. Obviously, moved to Guelph. My parents actually moved us to Kitchener when I was really young. I believe I was maybe a year, 2 years old. But growing up, we spent every holiday, for the most part, summers up in Sault Ste. Marie as well. So Guelph is, I guess you could say for the most part, is my hometown. But I've always called the North my home. It's almost like it's a pull to me. If I go up north, I feel more at peace than everything else up there. So
It's kind of in your blood, I guess, in a way.
Sadly, yeah.
That's okay. From a small town, it's good to get that experience and be out there. So, so you said you visit there a little bit, but not too often. Was that transition then pretty easy for you when you moved to this area, or do you still kind of have any fond memories of living back there?
I don't have any memories at all of living there per se. My brother would probably be the one more so, but for me, I have the memories of the holidays and, spending time with my grandma or my nanny and, cousins and aunts and uncles. And even now, going up north, it's home still. So
yeah. So is that where you got your appreciation for camping and the outdoors and all that stuff as well? Because I always see you posting lots of outdoors pics and, all that sort of stuff, getting out there.
I would say, yeah. I remember growing up, my nanny had a place just outside of Echo Bay as I got a little bit older. And I remember going up there in the summer and watching her chop wood or building a deck or just exploring the woods out by her house. And it was tranquil. And, there's so many people around you, but there wasn't a lot of people around you. It was just, it was calming. Nature itself is calming.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great. So you said you moved to Kitchener first. So when did you end up do you end up moving to Guelph at all, or were your family moved to Kitchener and then?
So we moved to Kitchener initially, and then I believe my brother was in grade 3, if I'm correct. So I would have been just about to enter kindergarten when we moved to Guelph itself. I started elementary school in Guelph itself, went to high school in Guelph, basically grew up in Guelph.
So, and you mentioned through the Catholic system as well.
Yes.
So yeah, for some reason, because before we were chatting, I know I had a bit of confusion as to where exactly you had met my younger sister, because you've been friends with her for quite some time. And for some reason, I thought it was school, but it was just through mutual friends, and then that kind of developed. So.
Yes. I guess you could say, people talk about 6 degrees of separation. Guelph is 6 degrees of Guelph itself. Everyone knows everyone at some point.
I think sometimes it's almost a little less, like it feels like a little less, where it's just maybe even like 1 or 2 degrees or something like that. So
sometimes, yeah.
And that kind of leads me to what I was going to get into next. It always seems to be a nice place or an easy place, I guess, to get to know people and make friends and things like that. Because I know when I first moved here, I was not a fan of Guelph, so that may be surprising to some, because it's very much the opposite now, where I feel I couldn't see living anywhere else. So do you feel, did you have that as well? Like, do you feel that you had those connections right away, or was it a gradual thing for you?
I think growing up here, I had the typical, I hate my hometown at one point. There's so much more out there. I want to live in a big city. I want to be in Toronto. I want to do all these things. And then, as I got older and I left Guelph, Guelph was peaceful. Now I don't live in Guelph anymore. I actually live in Center Wellington. But Guelph it's homey. Everyone knows everybody. And, you walk down the street and, I'll have friends, we'll go to the mall and they'll be like, how many people do you know here? I'm like, really sorry, but I got to say hi to this person, this person, this person, this person. And you may not see them every single day, but you have that connection. And I feel that that's what Guelph is. It's connections over and over and over again, whether it's friendships or work or, romantically or whatever it is, you have connections to everybody here.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and that's something that's kind of been brought up with a few of our guests as well, is that sort of big town feel, or big town but small town feel, I guess, sort of thing. So that's great. So I also wanted to touch on, you worked at Starbucks for quite a while. Was that a job you started at a high school, or was that after high school, or when did you start working there?
So I started at Starbucks when I was in high school. I was actually going to Centennial, and I worked there until I went away to college. I returned from college, started back with the company as well. And so in total, I worked for the company for about 10 years and worked my way up actually to working for their head office in Toronto. So
wow, that's quite the tenure.
Yes, I love coffee.
Well, I do feel that it's something as well that I do feel that a lot of people sort of need to work in the industry of service or coffee or retail or something like that, because it really shapes you and really shows you kind of another world, I guess, which a lot of people don't respect. So do you feel that working within that environment for so long kind of showed you the diversity of the workforce you were in, but also the opportunities that it could bring beyond just, being in that realm?
I think working for Starbucks, like prior to even I worked retail, but Starbucks really demonstrated who the people that you were communicating with on a daily basis were. So I had the opportunity to work, the morning shift, the afternoon shift, the evening shift, depending on when I was working for the company again. And it was, you build those relationships. You learned about their kids, you learned about their lives, you learned about their dog or whatever. And, we had people come in who were, top of the town for the customer base. But then we also had the people that would come in, they would just get a coffee and it was the smile that they were looking for that day. And it was building that and seeing those walks of life and just everybody. And it was heartwarming. And with Starbucks, one of the things that I valued was the be welcoming part that they instilled into their partners, that we weren't employees, we were partners, and we welcomed everybody in the store. And I think that was the biggest part of working there for so long, was that's what I loved. It was a third place for anybody. You have your home, you have your work, and then one third place of where you feel comfortable. And that's what Starbucks was.
That's really cool. And it's nice to hear, because I think sometimes you can kind of get lost in the maybe, drudgery or whatever of the corporate, kind of world, where it just feels like you're going to work and you've got that shift and you've got, whatever else. I think at any point somebody has kind of felt that way about their job. But it's nice to be able to kind of find also the joy in those jobs, which is something I guess we'll get into as well, is your volunteer work through Starbucks. So was that... you'd mentioned that the position you held was the communication lead, essentially, or with the community, was it?
So when we opened the new location in Guelph here, just downtown, part of my role as a shift supervisor was also the community lead in store. So part of that role was getting out and talking to various nonprofits or school groups or whatnot to donate, or whether it was our time, our product, or whatever it was that they needed from us. And that was a big chunk of my role. And for me, that gave me a sense of happiness, because it was, we're giving back. And, people talk, oh, your coffee's $5. It's like, okay, our coffee's $5, but we're also doing this at the same time. Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of the people that worked at that location were university students or from the older demographic that are re-entering the workforce. And it was, we weren't drones, I guess you could say, or lemmings, I think people say, like where they just kind of walk and do their thing every single day. But yeah, no. So part of my job was the community lead. So I worked with Hope House, actually, was one of the ones I worked with. But there was a couple of neighborhood groups. I believe it was John McCrae School as well was the school we actually supported on a regular basis as well.
Okay, that's really cool. So, and that was obviously with the promotion, and then you kind of worked your way up into that role. It wasn't something you were hired for when you started there.
It was actually an unpaid in-store role. So I did social media and community lead. So they were just little titles we got. They weren't paid or anything fancy, but they made me feel good.
Yeah, and you did a lot too, right? Yeah. You did a lot of work with it. That's great. And so something in addition to that I want to touch on is before obviously the Starbucks stuff, you were obviously doing a lot of community work and charity work as well. So can you tell us when you got started with that work and how that kind of came to be?
So as a kid, one of the things my parents tried to instill on me was always giving back to your community. So I used to do canvassing for the Canadian Cancer Foundation. I did some for the Kidney Foundation, but the Humane Society of Guelph was one of my biggest ones that I did as a kid, as most kids do. We get to play with cats or dogs. It was awesome.
I did some here, really, I think.
I was actually really disappointed there was no dogs here. Everyone needs puppies. But I did some work with the Kitchener Humane Society as well for about 2 years. I volunteered there on a regular basis. And then as I got a little bit older, I went away to school. I found some organizations I could volunteer with in Sudbury, and then came back and got involved more in my school life. And then again, kind of progressed and started volunteering with the Children's Foundation, did some work with Big Brother, Big Sister, Riverfest Elora, Hope House, and I even worked with the elections, federal and provincial. Don't judge me.
Got to get involved. That's the thing. It's a democracy for a reason, right? If you're not involved, then why do it?
Exactly.
So that's great with all the involvement with all these different events. So you said you were involved with the Children's Foundation. Is that something that's been kind of a primary ongoing, or is that kind of one of the more ones that you're more involved in, I guess?
So I've been volunteering at the Children's Foundation regularly, I'd say since 2014. So about 2014 or 2015. Every single year I was doing the Southern Ontario Amazing Race, which is one of their biggest fundraisers every single year. So whether I was a race marshal or I was actually shuttling people in the race itself, which is actually a lot of fun. They don't know where they're going, so you get lost really easily.
Sounds like fun.
It can be, as long as you're not in the middle of nowhere and your GPS doesn't work on your phone.
Just makes it the adventure, right?
Exactly. But yeah, so that's probably the biggest one that I do with them. I've also contributed to the Adopt a Family, and then now my company itself is sponsoring with the Adopt a Family as well. So
that's amazing. It's quite a lot of work that you're doing with all these organizations.
I try.
So I guess to touch on, you mentioned you going to school a couple times. What were the kind of things that you were studying when you were going off? Did it have to do with social work, or were you pursuing your web design and that sort of thing with schooling?
So I actually went to school for journalism initially.
Perfect for this.
Yes. Awkwardly. No, I went to school actually in Sudbury at Cambrian for journalism initially, and realized within probably the first month that it really wasn't a good fit. As one of my professors actually told me, I was too biased to be a journalist. So kind of went with that and ended up switching into the advertising program. Met with the program coordinator, and she said to give it a try. I was very creative at the time. So I gave it a shot and said, I'd already paid for res for a year. So I figured, why not? I lose a semester, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. I fell in love with everything to do with it. And from there, it kind of just spurred the rest of my career plan. So
that's pretty crazy. And it's always interesting, I find, how that happens, because sometimes with our guests, it's, I wanted to do that from the get-go, and other times it's just I fell into it by accident, and then it's all kind of happened from there, I guess, in a way.
Yes. Yeah, I thank my program coordinator every single day for where I am in my life now. Like, she really pushed me and made sure that I wasn't going to give up in any way, shape, or form. And so, but yeah, no, if it hadn't been for her basically signing the papers telling me you're going into advertising for a semester, I don't know where my career path would have brought me today.
Yeah, it's always interesting to think about. And so what sort of things did that course entail, as far as like just getting into marketing, and were you getting into web development as well, or was it just a very basic intro to everything going on?
So I actually had the web design skills before I went into advertising, but it was learning about marketing, how to write like a media plan, understanding how to purchase your media, so your digital ads or your billboards, writing your marketing communications plans. There was a bit of entrepreneurship. There was design work, which, if anyone knows me, I can't draw at all, but you put me in front of a computer and I'm awesome.
Just code it in or design it or whatever.
I'm really good in Illustrator. I don't know why.
I cannot figure out that program for the life of me. So
and that's why you have me. But yeah, so, and then following that, I ended up coming back here and went to Conestoga and took marketing and then business management as well. So I basically wanted to have the equivalent of a Bachelor of Arts in Communications. I just didn't want the price tag.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. And there's always different ways to take. So it's always good to know for anyone who is looking to do that sort of thing, that you don't have to just get right into it. There's sometimes opportunities that you still have to look for them, but they're there for sure.
100%.
So I wanted to touch, I guess, a little bit on your company because you run Infinity Marketing Design. Obviously, for those who don't know, you designed our beautiful website. So thank you for that. That's amazing.
I had a lot of fun.
And hoping to get some more work, creative things to work on with that. But you touched a little bit about how you got into it, and you mentioned that you had some web developing experience before that. So what was it that kind of drew you to that side of things? Because the web world is something that's completely foreign to me, I feel.
So when I was, and a lot of where I am, I'll 100% say comes from my parents, whether it's my mom or my dad, but the coding aspect, 100% from my dad. So I remember as a kid going to Toronto with him, and he had his own company with a business partner called Plain Text, and they would teach people how to code. And it was the Learning Annex, if you remember what the Learning Annex is. Yep. So when MySpace and LiveJournal were out, I had this little book that taught me how to code. So I was able to make my LiveJournal pretty and my MySpace pretty. I was one of those kids.
I do remember the LiveJournal days.
And it was so much fun. It looked awesome. But that kind of spurred my love for creativity and being able to do stuff like that, because it was, wait, I can do this. I'm horrible with math or numbers or anything like that, but it intrigued me, and I didn't know why, but I felt really nerdy at the same time because, well, it was nerdy. So as I got older and, as I went through the workforce and everything else, I kept going back to looking at people's websites. And I think having the advertising background and seeing the design aspect of it, it came back down to, well, no, this is what I love to do. So I started playing around and, doing a couple little things here and there. And eventually it kind of just grew into its own entity. And Infinity happened.
That's amazing. It's always nice to hear the backstory of where that comes from. Again, because it kind of sometimes develops out of, just having fun with it. And there is so much creativity that goes into web design, because I think some people look at it as just, numbers or coding or whatever else, but it really is sort of this other language that once you get into it and understand it, you can almost see the website form in front of you, I guess, in ways. So it's interesting when somebody has got a mind like that, because I definitely don't.
I'm not going to lie and say that 100% of the time I love what I'm doing, because there's days I look at it and go, if I have to look at another line of code, I'm going to scream. But for the most part, it's almost therapeutic because, for example, working with Dreamweaver, you can see every line of code that you're doing, but then you can see how it reflects into the live version. So I can see, if I tweak this little thing, this is going to happen. And it's nerdy, and I'm fully aware of it, and I love it. I embrace it. It's part of who I am, and yeah.
It's totally fun to have those like nerd out moments and nerd out times. I always kind of say that we need to get like a tech or a web talk show with Twitch going, and you can jump on and host that. We can do like a specific, just get into the nitty gritty of all the programming, and it would probably get a good following.
Surprisingly, yeah, probably.
People just nerd out and watch that. Have you coding this thing and have competitions to build websites live. It's a whole show in itself.
Don't give us ideas.
This is what happens. This is why people hate hanging out with me.
I think that's how the website happened.
Yeah, I think it was how the Gain website happened.
I think I told you I was bored, and you're like, "Well, the Gain website needs a revamp." Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's actually exactly how it happened. I find this way of roping people into some stupid ideas or some brilliant ones. I mean, who knows, right? Like, who knows how you take it? But thank you, though, for designing the website. It is beautiful. Anyone who wants to check it out, Gain Media or Gain Music, they both go to the same place right now. So how long have you've been doing this for a long time? Went to school a little bit for the marketing and all that sort of stuff. What sort of stuff are you doing right now with your company as far as, particular projects or anything like that you're excited working on?
So one of the major focuses that I've taken on, I guess you could say, is I only want to work with small businesses. And that comes from the years that I have worked in the industry. And it's an understanding of small business budgets and, not to take away from the other amazing design companies in town or the area. You guys are phenomenal. But some companies don't have these big budgets. I'm just a little guy. Mm-hmm. I don't need the big budget. You're working with just one person. So you're not feeding Paul, to feed Tom, to feed whoever. So right now I'm working with a flower shop in Fergus, and I'm so excited to launch her new site. And I really hope, Wendy, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, but it's WR Designs. She is an amazing florist, and just watching the vision of what she told me and watching her e-commerce site come to life. And I went and showed her the template on Friday, I believe it was, or I can't remember what day it was. But her reaction to seeing the colors and just how it looked. And that's why I do what I do. And then I've been talking with a boutique in Elora called Aria, which if you want to show up local, yay.
Yeah,
I'm wearing
I'm
wearing their sweater. It's awesome. Plug, whoop, whoop. But I'm going to be helping them get their Shopify site set up, actually. So for me, it's the small businesses and just watching them grow a little bit and giving them a bit more control over their digital presence, where a lot of these businesses, they go in and they're scared. It's like, what do I do with WordPress? What do I do with a Shopify? I don't know where to start.
Do I need all that?
Yeah. Do I need it? How do I set up e-commerce? Oh my goodness. What am I doing? And it's like, okay, here's my hand. I'm going to walk you through this. Mm-hmm. And we're going to jump together. And if we jump, it's like Jack and Rose on the Titanic. You jump, I jump.
Hopefully with better results. But
well, the board will be big enough for the two of us.
Big enough board, yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. And it's a great approach to take. And I think especially during these times and even before, I think it's something that has been important to echo. I think it doesn't really resonate with people until they really experience it or experience a big change like this in everyone's lifestyle, where it's, everything is kind of up in the air. So, kudos, and that's really admirable that you're doing that. So with this sort of work that you're doing, was there, I guess, kind of touching on what's going on, was there a pretty big pivot for you? Or are you finding that you were kind of getting more clients and more people because people are trying to figure out like, oh, I don't know what the digital world is,
I was shocked. Business went from being good to, oh my goodness, I might need to hire an assistant. And it wasn't because it wasn't anything I couldn't manage. It was just, I didn't expect it. Like I said, I'm a small guy. I'm not that well known in the community right now. And I've been kind of enjoying that ride. Like, okay, I'm going to start off small. I'm going to start slowly. I was in the infancy aspects for all purposes of the business. And then COVID hit. And I expected it to hit my business really hard. And it didn't. I'm not saying that I'm thriving or anything like that, but I've been able to pivot. I love the word.
Constantly using it. The team will appreciate that one.
But I've been able to do what I need to do for the businesses that I work with. And I've readjusted the way I approach what I do as well. So I'm not a one solution for every business. I refuse to put a business into a box. Business A might not need what business B needs. Mm-hmm. So each business, what their solution is that I offer is completely customizable. And so when people say to me, well, what's your rate? I really can't tell you the answer to that. I'm honest. I can't.
It can be a hard one to answer, though, for sure.
Yeah. And I know a lot of other design companies, like they do a flat rate and it works. For me, it just doesn't work for me because I think it's the way that I view the business. Because for me, and this is where Infinity comes from, is that it's not just the business that we're looking at. We're looking at the customer experience, plus we're looking at their presence. And we're looking at their sales experience plus their employee experience. It's everything working together to create this giant loop. And we all have to work infinitely well together.
Brilliant.
Bam.
So clever.
I
That's
have
great.
my moments.
And it's so true. And it's so integral and such an important part to all of the pieces kind of working together, because I don't know anything about web design or things like that. So I go to you and I go to, Belay for tech questions because, whatever. He hates it, but I go to him all the time and throw him under the bus for it. And then everyone else that's a part of the team, like it's all those pieces that kind of all make it work. And without it, it's, you're kind of at a loss. So that's great. So I wanted to, touch on relating to the work that you've been doing with Infinity, your more recent placement that you at Hope House.
Yes.
And that's a part-time position that you've kind of taken on. And so you're the the community lead or communications lead with that one as well. I always forget how the phrasing
Communications and event lead.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yes, it's all good. I sometimes switch them around, and as Jaya has told me, no, your title is communications and event lead, not events and communication. Or maybe I'm still switching it around. I really hope not.
It's all about the official titles these days.
Don't yell at me on Monday.
That's great. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's fairly recent. So how did you first get then involved through the festival that they were throwing, or how did that kind of come about?
So I knew about Hope House briefly from my time at Starbucks, and then last year, a very wise person messaged me and asked if I wanted to be involved in the Hope in the Street Festival for the upcoming year. And yes, I'm talking about this person right here.
Whatever that could be.
So I ended up being the volunteer coordinator. So working with the team there and just seeing the dynamic and the way that what they do for the community really impacts everyone. And it resonated with me. And then the job posting became available. So some say I was a little bit crazy because business was good, but I decided, hey, why not? I can take a part-time job. This works too.
Why not juggle something else?
Yeah, why not? I don't need a social life. Who needs? It's COVID. We didn't need one.
You need to find things to do, right?
Yeah. So I applied for the position, and I was offered the role, and I've never looked back. I love doing what I do every single day. And it's a sense of getting to know the community members and seeing the impact that we do have. And it's not just one demographic that we serve. It's, there's the food market, there's the clothing market, the affordable clothing market coming up. Or sorry, we already did that. I swear I'm good at my job.
Just so many events that they just all jumbled together.
No, the affordable holiday gift market. And just seeing, I guess, the smiles on people's faces when they access what we actually do, and also educating other community members on what Hope House itself is, because a lot of people do have a misunderstanding about what we are. Yeah. And I know you had Jaya, the executive director.
Not too long ago.
Yes. So if you want to know more about Hope House, she is the perfect person to ask.
Refer back to interview, whatever that was, a couple of weeks ago, back in September.
Just look back. Just look back in the archives.
No, that's great. So then you started, I guess, 2 years ago with the festival, and you were on again this year for the event. So initially that was obviously a festival that was in June, and it pivoted and changed to September. So how did your role change between year one and year two, between even just like the festival involvement?
This was actually my first year with the festival. Surprise. Haha.
I always think you're like fully involved in 1 year.
No. The year before, I had been asked to help out, but I was actually in Florida during the festival time, so I wasn't able to help out. Otherwise, I would have been there selling merch. It would have been great. But this year, with just coming on board, and as the volunteer coordinator, I didn't have to recruit any volunteers because we were trying to pivot the event. So we ended up taking the event virtual. But with that, we had our food vendors that we had to try to figure out what we were going to do. So we teamed up with Guelph Box, which was phenomenal, and was able to offer a date night in a box, or the Hits Experience box is what we called it.
Such a great idea.
And it was delicious. It was phenomenal. The food was great. The reception that we got and the involvement from the food vendors was amazing. And we had a couple of new food vendors that came on board to offer the experience. So overall, I believe the event went really, really well. I know that I don't remember exact numbers or anything like that, but we did online fundraising instead. And we were able to fundraise enough to, I believe it was for 4 months worth of the brand new takeaway breakfast program, which is offered every morning, Monday to Thursday, outside of Hope House, where community members can just come and grab a bag of breakfast to go, because we can't have them in the cafes.
Yeah. And I think that's the bigger part of doing some of these events, I guess. And that's really the purpose of it, is to give back to the community, because there is so much need, and especially in these times, it's, you know, obviously it's a very different world right now. So I think all of us doing a little bit to kind of chip in and do what we can. It's amazing. So for everyone who did participate in that event, thank you again for doing that. There have been kind of some talks about next year already, I think, vaguely, but we're not supposed to talk about it. Because there are plenty of other events that Hope House has in the meanwhile, because you guys have pivoted so much and everything like that. Is there anything that right now running, aside from the holiday markets and things like that you wanted to kind of talk about that's going on with them that people can reach out to?
So right now we are actually running a virtual Christmas Joy Home Tour. So the Christmas Joy Home Tour is Hope House's biggest event of the year. So normally we would invite the community to purchase a ticket and they'd be able to go into some of the most gorgeous homes in Guelph. I wish I could live in some of these. And they're decorated to the nines by some great local decorators. But this year, again, we had to pivot. So Chestnut Realty Park has actually virtually tour. They videoed the entire inside of the homes, but you can actually walk through the homes virtually.
That's pretty crazy.
It's pretty cool, actually. So if you go to the christmasjoy.ca website, you are able to tour the homes until December 1st. There's also the Christmas tree auction, which is a big staple every year. So all the trees in each of the homes, which are already pre-decorated, are up for auction.
That's awesome.
I don't know about you, but I really don't like decorating my Christmas tree. So
pre-done for you.
Yeah, so I might be considering that myself.
Yeah, that works.
Trees are beautiful. So we have that up, and all the links are right through the Christmas Joy website. And there's some great local artists that have done their some local. I swear I can talk.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, it's a bit of a long day. But so some local musicians that are singing some favorite Christmas songs, some local purveyors of taste, we're calling them. So restaurants. So I believe Delicious Direct, Blisto is doing one. I think Milk & Co. as well did like a video of some sort. So they're all on the website, and the website was beautifully done.
That's great. That's a lot of community involvement all in one great cause.
The committee for the Joy Home Tour was phenomenal, and everyone really banded together to really make this event like what it is.
That's amazing. So that runs until December
1st. You have until Tuesday.
Perfect. So for everyone out there,
christmasjoy.ca.
So one thing I did also want to kind of touch on and talk about is just, I guess, with all the talks about events and things like that, is just, I guess, like you've always been so helpful for our shows. You've run doors for us. You've done social media stuff for us behind the scenes. So that sort of stuff, it's so invaluable. I think for anyone running events, you don't realize all the little pieces and intricacies and all the little things that help. So although sometimes you may think it's like a small task, it's always greatly appreciated. So it's always wonderful having that. But when did you kind of really start getting involved in the music scene yourself? Like, did you have like Shadow Day memories or, anything like that, or first show or concert experiences?
Really don't want to age myself right now. Oh, wait, you're older than me. Okay, never mind.
Okay. I just did. I refer to the shadow and the trachteria. I don't know.
Oh, the trash. No, 100% the shadow. I remember back in high school, some of the people that I hung out with, they were in local bands. And I will fully admit, I was that preppy girl that used to run cross country, and I was super preppy. And then I hit a point where I was hanging out with some friends and we were listening to a different type of music. I was like, wait, what is
My
this?
Chemical Romance or something? Or?
It might have been. No, I think it was Dashboard, to be honest.
Professionally, that was, yeah.
Has to be Dashboard. Come on. But it was going from there, and then I went to one of my friend's shows, and it was this vibe, and it was this it almost touched your heart and like your soul, and I was like, why am I not doing this all the time? And after that, it was every Friday or Thursday going to these local shows. Half the time I didn't even know the band's playing, but did I love it? Yes, I did.
And dragging your friends kicking and screaming because they want to go elsewhere sometimes?
Probably. I think when I saw Billy Talent play at the Club Denim, I'm pretty sure I did drag a friend of mine with me to that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But no, and going to the Trashateria, I remember doing that. And I remember going to Toronto and going, I remember seeing Straylight Run or going to Battle of the Bands with a couple of friends. I remember The Decay or my friend's band, another one called Waiting to Finish, which I feel bad, but half the time they played, we were waiting for them to finish.
That's high school and whatever bands, right?
But I think the music scene in high school was different than what it is now because it was our community. It was, you'd come downtown and you had friends that went to St. James. You had friends that went to Ross. You had friends, some of them even went to school in Elora or Fergus, but we all knew each other because we were all at the shows together and we all had each other's backs no matter what. And sometimes downtown could be a little scary, if you're only 15, 16. And we all looked out for each other. And I think that was the biggest thing. Going to a pit, going to the Alexis on Fire show, someone falls down. Yeah, you probably pushed them, but you still help them up.
Help them back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting. I think when you're in it and involved in it, because it is such a different vibe and feel, and when you see your friends up there playing and whatever else, like it really has that closeness. I guess that's something you always kind of, I think at every show you're kind of looking for that, right? And you kind of want to bring that vibe and that feeling to it.
When we did Hope in the Street and it was live streamed here from Onyx, a part of it, I was so happy. And I remember saying to the chair of the committee, Shannon, I don't think I've ever been so happy to hear live music as I am right now. And I don't think it was just because, of the event. Obviously the event was phenomenal, but it was because it was something that we were lacking. And I think growing up in that scene, it was something that was instilled in you, and it gave you an appreciation for things. And it wasn't just, an appreciation for, your friendships. It was an appreciation for the music itself, because, sometimes your friends couldn't play the guitar, but you appreciated their effort. So,
yeah. And it takes a lot to get up there. I mean, I've tried to teach myself how to play guitar numerous times, and I've still, never done an open stage, or I've still never done karaoke. I've still never done karaoke.
Okay, I can't sing a note, but I love karaoke.
just the things that happen within the scene, but. Within, I guess, all of the experiences that you've had over the years with shows, you've also worked with organizations like Riverfest Elora that you touched on. So how did you kind of first get involved with that festival and Spencer and all of them?
So I got involved with Riverfest the year after I moved to Elora, actually, because I remember sitting in my backyard and I was like, what is that noise? Where is that coming from? Because it's Elora. There's no crazy parties.
It's a pretty sleepy town.
We're quiet. And I remember hearing it, and I think it was Blue Rodeo. If I'm 100% honest, I believe it was Blue Rodeo. I'm not a country person at all. So I may have went back inside and I was like, oh, why? Why do I hear Blue Rodeo? They're a great band, don't get me wrong, just not my forte.
It's not for everyone,
But I didn't know about Riverfest up until that point. I was still, it was still in its infancy. I believe it was its second year or first year. Mm-hmm. And after that, I submitted an application to volunteer. I had my Smart Serve, and I've been bartending for them every year. And I love it. I was really sad this year that I didn't get to do my annual go to Riverfest. I'd work Friday night, and then I'd get Saturday off, and then I work Sunday, and I have this nice little routine, and I didn't get it this year.
Yeah, and I think that's the one biggest thing is just it kind of disrupts all the usual little things that you kind of normally do. But they did still do something virtually a little bit.
They did.
Yeah, which is nice to see. It was nice to be able to kind of get a little bit of that. Where do you see yourself being involved with their the festival next year, or are you trying to kind of just bug Spencer constantly about find something for me to do? Or
I think if I told them I wasn't volunteering, if Katie is helping again next year, I might get yelled at.
That's true. They'd probably get in trouble for that.
Yeah, when I told her I was helping with Hope House initially with hits, I actually got told that I better still be helping with Riverfest. So I'm a little scared of that one.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, it's great being able to catch up with you and to talk about all these great events and shows and shadow days and all that sort of stuff and what you're doing right now and how you've managed to pivot. So for anyone interested, infinitymarketing.design, or at infinity.design. You can find Ali. So thanks so much for all the work you do with our shows. Behind the scenes here, we'll keep bugging Belay about getting like a Tech Talks or like a web design show going.
Please, Belay.
So for Twitch, just a little extra. You never know what can happen of these offshoots of these shows that we're doing. So that's all for us. Again, thanks again for coming. This has been another episode of Genres of People. Tune in again next week. We will be back at 6 p.m. from right here at Onyx Nightclub. Bye, everyone.